take him up a couple of things, like, take him up, like, so that's your, so this one, you're gonna put it on your, and don't put your name on it.
Thank you. This is actually not expensive pants. Yeah, I don't use a backpack. You should. I'm too long-waisted, so it like sits like right here. I look like a little Boy Scout, you know, with a little tiny backpack on my back. I'm gonna have to do it now just so you can see it. Well, it'd be better for my shoulders to stand up straight. Let me know if you ever need anything. Has Joseph contacted you about vehicle? In my office.
And I'm right here, and I'm gonna.
I have internally assigned them now. Yeah, all three of our vehicles are basically like assigned now. We used to float around because we.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Whatever it does.
Well, I hope you already told me all that. You told me that you had, so I guess we're gonna have that conversation.
You might have.
It would have been in the last one. That usually helps. Most people can remember at least the last one.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, everybody. I have 5 o'clock.
Recording in progress.
Right. I believe we have a quorum. I just want to make sure that we see, and I see Ms. Newton is on the line. So we'll call this meeting to order if the clerk will take the roll.
Brenham,
Present.
Teratio,
Present?
Barron,
Here.
English,
Present.
Newton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. That brings us to item 2, the approval of minutes from 2A is the December 14th, 2023 meeting. That can be found on pages 5 and 6 of our agenda packet. Is there a motion regarding the minutes?
Approve. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the roll for the minutes.
Brenham,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes?
Barron,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Brings us to item 3, the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
No requested changes.
Thank you. Is there a motion regarding the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Will the clerk call the roll for the agenda?
Brenham,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes?
Barron,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. That brings us to item 4, the election of our chair. Is there a motion regarding the chair?
Madam.
Excuse me. Yes, Ms. Gretchen, you're recognized.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Chakisse Newton. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. I guess we should take the vote on that one. We won't take any other motions. Or, right, we don't have to. I'm sorry, I haven't done this one in a while.
Yes, just make sure
Point of
you
order.
open the floor for nominations, and once you receive that,
A nomination,
you close
okay.
nominations.
All right, nominations are now closed. We'll call the roll for the election of the chair.
Brenham,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Congratulations, Madam Chair. I believe I'll now hand over the meeting. Well, no. Okay. We will recognize Ms. Newton as chair, but I will continue to move forward with the agenda. Okay, thank you. That brings us to item 5, our items for action. 5A, move to direct the administrator to review and update the illegal dumping ordinance, including raising fines up to $5,000, jail time, and community service, picking up debris on roadways. That's from Ms. English of June 6, 2023. Information on that can be found on pages 7 through 14. Any discussion on that item? Yes, I'll recognize Ms. English first, since she's the maker of the motion.
It's okay. I just wanted to just give a brief update. I have a beautiful district, and it's rural, and seeing trash, seeing mattresses, seeing stuff dumped on the side of the road when we have county services that are free is really not a good sight for Richland County, for any of our districts. And been working with Attorney Wright to make sure that this is a state law. It is a state law, and if you can speak to that, if you need to speak to that, we are not going outside of the law, but we're going within the parameters of it. And I just wanted to make sure that that's noted. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I think I saw Ms. Barron next.
I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Branham, did I see your hand?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And also my hand, Ms. Horacio.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Mr. Branham?
This is my first meeting on the committee, so apologies if something's already been discussed that I raised. But so the proposed penalty on the motion is to increase the fine to $5,000? Up to, okay. And then we also have a set of recommendations from the staff. And I guess part of what I'm reading too from the report is that the county is presently administering community service to those found guilty of illegal dumping. Now, it looks like the administrator would like to comment on that point. Would that be okay?
Okay. Mr. Brown, you're recognized.
I can wait in general. What I wanted to do was actually kind of do a little review.
Level set? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, members of the council. And then maybe go from there, because I think that will be important to the staff's recommendations as well as to information that the county attorney has to share.
Got it. Thank you. Mr. Branham, are you okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So as you mentioned, and as Ms. English mentioned, this motion and the staff's recommendations are a direct reflection of the motion. So when you read the staff's recommendations, it's designed to provide what was requested. In terms of what the county is or the staff's recommending, this is actually in excess of state statute. So there is questions from the attorney's office whether or not the increases are something that would be that we would even be able to do. But again, the recommendations were to address increased penalties. So I'm trying to provide, to your point, a level set of what staff's recommendations are. So these recommendations exceed state statute, both in fines and in penalties associated with potential jail time. So just want to make sure that we are clear on what the recommendations are, why they exist the way that they do. When we say what staff's recommendations are, there again are in relation to the motion. So the county attorney certainly has provided us information that he has concerns. There may be other information that is more appropriate for him to share in executive session, but in the spirit of being very clear, it should be noted that these are in excess of what the state statutes allow, because that's what the increase would mean.
Thank you. Further, Mr. Brown, and we kind of left off with you. Did you complete your remarks or questions?
No, not really. Can we have Mr. Wright just speak to whatever extent he would like to about the lawfulness of the proposed terms in the motion?
Would you like to make a motion to enter executive session?
Mr. Branham, would it be okay if we address Ms. Newton and then perhaps address the potential for executive session?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Newton?
Thank you, Ms. Horacio. And I might miss part of the answer to my question. So as it relates to this motion, I have a comment and then I have two questions. So first, look forward to hearing at the appropriate moment whatever information our attorney has to share. I will say there are few people who hate litter more than I do. It is one of society's easiest fixable problem, and it's really frustrating that we don't. I've mentioned this before, and we'll just mention it again, that as much as I despise litter, I am deeply uncomfortable with the idea of sending people to jail because they litter. And so for me personally, I'm completely comfortable. Well, first, I love us adding mandatory community service and increasing that. Completely comfortable with and fully supportive of increasing the fine. But for me, where I fall short is on the jail time piece. And so that's not something that I would personally support. But for those council members that do want to do that, I guess I wonder if when you look at page 12, I want to say it's 12-67, item D, which says for a second distinct offense or more, community service shall be 50 hours, and the minimum jail time is 14 days, not to exceed 30 days. Maybe the substitution there could be that the jail time could be optional with a not to exceed of those maximum 30 days. But again, for me, I hate litter, but don't want to send people to jail for it. My question is on page 11, item 12-62, there's a section that says refuse fines. And under item E, it talks about how if the county has to come in and abate the nuisance, that we could charge the property owner. And I guess I just wanted someone to remind me what our authority is there, because I know that SCAC, for example, is embarking on an effort to see if those are things that we can charge to property taxes, which I know we can't. I just want to be clear on what our current fining authority is. And those are all my questions and comments.
Mr. Wright, would you like to address any of that, all of that?
I would like to address it in executive session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now seems like maybe a time.
All right. Councilman Teresa, Councilperson, member Teresa.
Thank you.
Hi. I'd like to move to go into executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to go into executive session. We'll take the vote for executive session.
Branham,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. We're now in executive session. legal counsel, and no action was taken. Is there a motion? I'll entertain a motion regarding the item.
Before the motion, if you don't mind.
Yes, Ms. English, please.
I just want to note the frustration in seeing all the trash in such a beautiful area that the 5,000 or up to, or the jail time was to bring awareness. It is not written in stone, but it's something that we really want to make sure that the citizens understand. Just the frustration of seeing mattresses, tires, trash dumped on the side of the road. And just to make that clear, and that's something that we can do to continue working on this. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'll agree with that. It's something I think we all hear at neighborhood meetings, for sure.
Councilwoman Teresa,
Yes, Mr. Branham.
I have a motion.
Okay.
And the motion is to ask the county attorney to redraft a proposed change to the current ordinance that we've been discussing here on this agenda item. And the ask would be that the attorney's office pull from both our existing county ordinance as well as the current state statute that deals with illegal dumping. We would like to make sure to incorporate a community service element as one of the penalties. And we would also like a draft that would create potentially higher penalties for businesses that engage in illegal dumping activity, to include potentially revoking or suspending business licenses. And we'd like to look at an escalation schedule that would include both the weight of the amount of material that's illegally dumped, and also an escalation for repeat offenders within any given 12-month period.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, I'll second that. Yes, you're recognized, Mr. Wright.
Yes, I just want to say, I think the motion would be to have administration prepare that. Of course, the county attorney's office would look at it and review it and make whatever necessary changes, but yeah.
I'd have a friendly amendment to my motion. I'd happily accept that.
Thank you, and I'll second that amended motion. Great. Any further discussion? Ms. Barron?
Yes, so I just wanted a point of discussion that we had that I'd like to just share publicly, and that is that we see hundreds of tires being dumped in a particular area. When you see that much that many tires or an abundance of items, it is safe to assume that an individual did not do that. And thus, while we are really kind of including the businesses with that, as a local business owner, I share with my colleagues that usually, if you get a cell phone, it's 20% more to have a business line. It costs more to be a business owner, and as it costs more to be a business owner, then the expectation is that we would have those same business owners to care about our community and about our districts just as individuals would. And so with that, if they're coming into our districts or they're coming into our county and illegally dumping items, and we can track it back to a business owner or a particular business, then I do think that they should be held liable for those items and be fined for them appropriately. And so I do support that portion. And I know some of the business individuals out there said we got a lot of other extra things that we have to pay for. But this one thing, if you follow the rules that we have in Richland County and go to some of our, we got landfills, we got all the things that you need to go properly dump your items, then you don't even have this to worry about. Thank you.
Ms. Barron, any further questions, comments, discussion regarding this item? Okay. I think we need to take a vote on that motion. Yes. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. That will bring us to item 5B, the Business Service Center short-term rental draft ordinance. That can be found on pages 15 through 41 of our agenda packet. And I'll just look to staff to see if perhaps they would like to address this item before we start discussion.
Absolutely. If you would mind recognizing Mr. Zach Kavanaugh at the Business Services Center. He spent a lot of time working on this information, participating in other meetings where people are talking about these same types of things. And so we're just asking if he can give a brief overview to allow you to have a robust discussion and see what actions you might want to take.
Thank you. Mr. Kavanaugh?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Brown, members of the committee. Good afternoon. My name is Zach Kavanaugh for the Business Service Center for the record. And just to jog y'all's memory, we had this ordinance in front of the body previously, and it was tabled due to some legislation at the State House that we wanted to wait on them to figure out how they wanted to sort out short-term rentals on a municipal and county basis. But with the new implementation date of, I believe, Friday for the county's land development code, it does allow short-term rentals in certain zoning designations. And so we feel that it is time to move forward with this ordinance right now. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I see Ms. Barron.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh, for that update. So with that, I know we had lots of conversation about trying to stay aligned with the state and their bill that was proposed. Should we move forward with what we already have? Does that put us in any exposure or liability should the bill at the State House pass?
That is a great question. So currently how our draft ordinance is written, we don't anticipate any conflict with the state legislation that is currently pending. Essentially, it's a ban on bans, and we're not capping short-term rentals. We're not putting a percentage of residential properties can be that. So I don't like to speak for somebody else's division or department, but after the legal review of this ordinance, we don't anticipate any conflict with that currently.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Barron.
And so with that, and I know you have like 1,000,001 things to do already, but, and this may be more appropriate for Mr. Brown, would this be one of those items that we would have our lobbyists or appropriate staff person to monitor to make sure that we stay in, if you'll let me say, the safety zone with that bill? Because I feel comfortable with us moving forward with what we've already worked to present, but I do not want us to be held liable or have any exposure if the State House, goes and starts turning flips and tricks and all the things, and then we left holding a bag.
The short answer is yes, because again, this does not anticipate banning, anyone. It's just certain zoning requirements that exist, and that's really what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Ms. Newton's hand.
Thank you, Ms. Teratio. A few quick questions. One is, given that the Land Development Code is about to go into effect, just wanted to know if Mr. Kavanaugh could address the timeline at which we need to proceed to have us in good stead. And then after that, I have really technical questions about the ordinance. So if it's okay, I'll take that first answer first.
Right. So, yes, Ms. Newton. So with the implementation date of the first of the Land Development Code, that code does have a handful of regulations that would affect this industry type. what we're trying to prevent is essentially, say, for example, say a short-term rental owner comes in the office Friday. They apply for a license, they gain all necessary approvals, including zoning approval. We would only be relying on those handful of regulations that are in the land development code to regulate this industry. So the ordinance in front of the body today goes just a little step further in making sure this industry doesn't go completely unregulated, because I'm sure y'all have received complaints from neighbors of these. And so with the parking requirements, occupancy requirements, and some of the things that we have in the pending or in the draft ordinance would prevent some of the, well, I would think would prevent some of the complaints that y'all may be receiving already. And if I could ask you to just repeat that second question, or the technical side of it.
Oh, I didn't give you the technical questions yet. You
Yeah,
didn't miss
right.
them. I was waiting. And so really quickly, wanted to know if you could just remind us, as I read this and maybe I missed it, I didn't see what our remedies for nuisance is, and it may just be our other remedies. So just wanted to see if you could address nuisances. And then I was curious about the 2 parking spaces. And I'm only curious because I know I've had short-term rentals in other places where you weren't required to have 2. So I didn't know if that was a best practice or even if that was actually a reasonable requirement in some areas where I know that parking is scarce. And then those are my 2 technical questions.
Right. So there is a section in the ordinance draft that essentially just has us relying on existing code language that would enable us to enforce all county or just county ordinance that already exist that relate to the nuisance aspect of the code, which would, you know.
And can you point me there, because I just missed it apparently when I was reading this again.
Yeah, absolutely. So. So the section that relates to all the language in our current business license ordinance would be the 1682B, which basically requires them to get a business license and abide by all the existing business service center code language. And then also that would require them to collect and remit accommodation tax on a monthly basis, just like we already have hotels and motels, existing hotels and motels already doing that. And then just right below that in section C, so the 1682C is just the owner or responsible local representative of a permitted short-term rental just shall ensure the short-term rental property complies with all county ordinance at all times. And
Got
so
it.
the nuisance
Thank you.
ordinance,
And then-
you could rope the nuisance ordinance into that section.
Agreed. Thank you. I just wasn't necessarily interpreting it that way. And then my other question was just about the minimum parking.
Right, so 2 minimum off-street parking spots would be required with this ordinance draft, and then any additional cars would I guess need to park on the street.
I guess my question was really more just, is that a standard requirement? It's just why that number? Because there are places where parking is really at a premium and you don't have that. And I just was trying to figure out if that was an undue requirement. Certainly other places where I have rented properties in other cities, I was given a space, but not 2.
Right, yeah, so the two required parking spaces is just like, is basically an industry standard for, regulations for this business type.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Terestio.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. And just recognizing our colleague, Mr. Weaver. Okay, thank you for being here. And looking down to see if there are further questions or discussion from my colleagues at this time. Mr. Branham?
So, Mr. Kavanaugh, again, just to confirm, you consulted the recently enacted City of Columbia ordinances for the same topic, as well as Hilton Head Island's longstanding ordinances to draft this?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. And the way I understand it, based on what I read too, from what was in the materials, again, this is not a ban on short-term rentals. We want to get compliance with a business enterprise, requiring that they have a business license. And then we also want to see the collection of the accommodations taxes, as you know, other places that are offering accommodations are doing so. And then we're also trying to mitigate nuisances. And one of the ways that we're doing that, would do that through this draft ordinance, is that we would have that good contact information for the person that's responsible for the property. If it's non-owner occupied, there's an issue, we know who to contact, who's responsible, in the event there's an emergency or a nuisance or something along those lines. Does that all sound right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right on point.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Barron? Okay. Your light is not coming on, Ms. Barron.
Okay.
Okay.
What about it now?
Before you make a motion, could I ask just one question about the current bill at the State House? So as I'm looking through just where it is, it looks to me like both versions of the bill have been assigned to a committee, but there's been no subcommittee, no testimony, nothing like that has happened. It's just kind of sitting in a committee.
That is correct.
Okay, great. Just wanted to clarify that. So, it doesn't look like this is getting a lot of movement, is what I'm getting at.
It isn't. My contact at the Municipal Association does, they're fighting against it completely. They want our cities and towns to be able to regulate this industry however they see fit. And so, yeah, it's not gaining a lot of traction, it appears.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, sorry, Ms. Barron, you're ready to make a motion?
I am. So I move to approve, to move forward with the attached short-term rental, that ordinance as presented by our staff.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. That will bring us to, I'm sorry, I lost my place in my agenda. Brings us to item
5-2A.
5B2. Wait. Okay. Direct the county administrator to work with staff to ensure the proposed short-term rental ordinance requires each homeowner who wishes to provide a short-term rental to obtain a business license and pay accommodation taxes. Do we want staff to address that?
Those
Okay.
items were included in
Those
the
are
ordinance
both.
that was
Okay,
presented.
so that's included in the motion that Ms. Barron made. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I'm sorry. That does bring us to item 6, items pending analysis, no action required. 6A is direct the administrator to research and present to council current laws and benefits of enacting impact fees in Richland County. The purpose is to help reduce the tax burden of residents by not having to pay the complete cost of development in Richland County. That's pages 42 and 43 of our packet. Just checking time, it's 5:52, but I do want to open the floor. Mr. Brown?
We have enough time for ACA Jensen to provide a brief overview for this item, as it just requires no action, but we want to give you an update.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Jensen, or ACA Jensen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. ACA Jensen for the record. Very briefly, staff has prepared and submitted an RFP. We received 2 responses. The Director of Procurement has reviewed them and has recommended a vendor. And we're in the process now of finalizing all those details and entering into a contract. So we're probably about 2 weeks behind where we wanted to be, but we are generally on track, and we will get the information to you before July 1.
Thank you. Okay. That will bring us to item I believe it's 7.
Adjourn.
All right, moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thanks. Adjourned.